Tim is the president and CEO of Cottage Garden Incorporated. He grew up on a small family farm in Indiana and went on to become national FFA president in 1991. FFA in agriculture taught Mark leadership skills as well as the value of hard work, responsibility, and the value of a dollar, all of which he attributes to his present success. After FFA, Mark went on to work for the National FFA as their first director of marketing and in USA Today before founding the company he runs today. Cottage Garden is the #1 maker of musical gifts in North America and was runner-up for the National Small Business of the Year in 2008. However, Mark considers his most important accomplishment and occupation to be president of the Tim family, where he and his bride are raising 6 amazing kids. In addition to his family and work, Mark is also giving back to the FFA for all that the FFA gave to him by serving as the 2013 chairman of the National FFA Board of Trustees.
Thank you, Vicki, very much. I am just absolutely thrilled to be here. This is my first state FFA convention in a very long time, so I'll tell you what, I know I'm at the end of the evening here, so we're going to have to juice it up a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I want to divide this room right here in the middle, okay? We're going to divide it in the middle and have a little bit of a contest between this side of the room and this side of the room, all right? So I've been listening. I sat right over here. I'm a little more familiar with this side of the room than I am side of the room, but now I've got a bird's eye view, all right? So this side of the room, when I point to you, very simple. All you're going to do is shout F, okay? You can do that, no problem. On this side, you're going to shout A. Very simple, okay? Let's give it a shot. Here we go. All right, come on. Let's hear it again. You're going to have to stand up. I think you're going to have to stand up on this one. All right? We're going to make it a little more interesting. All right? Let's try it one more time. All right, here we go. All right, so I know you're up. I know you're alive. So here's what we're going to do. Now I need to know if you can follow me here this evening, because I'm going to talk to you for a little while, and I have been known to talk fast, so I got to know that you're going to be able to absorb it. So what we're going to do is give you a little test. Very simple test. All you're going to do is when I pass my hand over this microphone, you're going to clap one time as loud as you can. It's that simple. Are we ready? Here we go. That wasn't very good, okay? Here, get ready. Here we go. I said when I pass my hand across the microphone, you clap, okay? Here we go. 1, 2. Now, some of you, you're on the front row. There's no excuse for that. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Still getting there. Marion, what am I going to do here, partner? Okay, here we go. We can do this, okay? Here we go. Thank you. Have a seat. Now, there's another reason why that was important, because Marion Fletcher and I have been friends for a very long time. I got to know him while I was a National FFA officer. He serves as the National FFA Treasurer for the Board of Trustees, where I am the chairman, and he bet me $20 I couldn't get a standing ovation in the first 5 minutes. You lost. All right? Well, we'll put this $20 right here, because maybe it belongs to one of you guys out there instead of to me. Okay? Now, I want to tell you something, though. I did learn something about you. Even though these bright lights are here, I got to see all of you in about the first 15 rows out here. You can learn a lot about people by how they clap. Okay? So raise your hands if you are somebody that claps right hand over left. Okay? Yeah, I saw a lot of you. Raise your hand if you're somebody that claps left hand over right. Absolutely. Now, I saw some of you out there. Go ahead, you smarty pants. All of you that can clap left, right, left, right. Yep, I saw you out there as well. Okay, now here's the catch though. This is what I learned about you. Studies have shown that those people that clap right over left are some of the very best looking people in society today. are some of the greatest thinkers in society. That's right. Now listen, this is the important thing. Those of you super talented people that were clapping right over left, studies went on to say those are the people in society that just think they're good looking. So those of you that raise your hands, we know who you are. You're not fooling anybody. All right? Now, back to this $20 bill here, okay? So it doesn't seem right that I should get to keep Marion or Mr. Fletcher's $20 bill. So would anybody like this $20 bill? Yeah! Okay. Now, what if I take this $20 bill and I take it and I crumple it up like this? Okay? Who wants this $20 bill? Really? Yeah. All right. What if I take this $20 bill and I put it on the floor and I stomp on it and I grind it in right here like this? Anybody want that $20 bill? You still want this $20 bill? Yeah. Why would you still want this $20 bill? Because it still spins. All right? Right there, you were the most enthusiastic. There you go. All right? You got the $20 bill. Now, here's the deal, guys. I crumpled it. I stomped on it. Okay? And you still wanted it. It still had value to you. Well, let me tell you something. What I've learned in my life, there are days that I feel a little crumpled. There are days that I feel a little stepped on. Okay? And I'm sure you can relate to that. But what I'm going to tell you here is that the value of you is not on those days. It's not when you get stepped on. It's not when you're a little crumpled. You still have the same value. The same as that $20 bill is going to spend after this session, the same as it did when it was perfectly and brand new up here on the podium. You have that same value. Okay? And so the question I've got for you is, who are you? Because the value of you is not what you do, it's not the failures you have, but it's who you are. And that's what we're going to spend some time this evening talking about, is who are you. So we're going to play a little game here. It's something I used to do a long time ago, and it's called That's Me. It's very simple. I'm going to make a statement, and if that statement is something you can relate to, and it sounds like you're just going to shout out, That's me. Okay? Real simple. I'll make it easy. We'll all start out. I'm an FFA member. That's me. I am attending my first ever state FFA convention. That's me. I am a junior or senior in high school. That's me. A lot of you. I like music. That's me. I am a boy. That's me. I am a girl. That's me. I am not sure. Thanks for being honest. Okay? Thanks for playing along. All right, let's try another one. Okay? Let's try. I made the honor roll last semester. That's me. I am glad that school's over for the year. That's me. I am better looking than the two people on each side of me. That's me. I am humble. I love FFA. Okay? So that's who you are. All right? That's a little bit of who you are. But what I'm going to tell you here this evening, what I'm going to walk through is I'm going to tell you something. I believe that every one of you here is gifted. Absolutely gifted. You have been given an amazing gift. And the gift is being in the FFA. That gift is being in the FFA. Now, you may think that's an odd way to phrase it, that you're gifted. But I'm going to walk you through why I believe that you're gifted. Why is it a gift to wear the blue and gold jacket? Why is it something that you consider to be a gift? And what can it do for the rest of your life? To do that, for me to properly do that, I've got to back up a little bit, and I've got to answer the question, who am I? You heard a nice introduction of me up here, okay? You heard a little bit about me from my time in FFA. I was very fortunate to wear the blue and gold jacket. I'm going to talk about that here this evening. But my time after the blue and gold jacket, I stand up in front of you here as one of the most blessed individuals that you'll get the chance to meet. I truly believe that I have been, personally and professionally. And it came from my time wearing the blue and gold jacket. I had the opportunity, as they said, when I retired as a National FFA officer, I got to work for Tony the Tiger at Kellogg's. I got to work for the nation's top newspaper, USA Today. I worked for the National FFA, and then I got the opportunity to found my own business. And then years later, that business would be chosen as the first runner-up as the National Small Business of the Year, with the award given at the White House from the President George Bush. I have got the chance to travel around the world, absolutely around the world, selling products that I've developed. In fact, I've been in the UK this year. I just got back from China, and my wife and I are going to be going to South Africa. But all of that, as cool as that is, it doesn't pale, it pales in comparison to the one thing that was shared up here in my introduction. Jerry, if you can help me out here. What matters most to me is not all those accomplishments. What matters to me is the fact that I get to be the president of the Tim family. Now, I will tell you that it says in my introduction that I'm the CEO of Cottage Garden, but I'm the president of the Tim family, and that's because I think we all know who the CEO of the Tim family is. That's not me. She's sitting right over here. She is my beautiful bride, the love of my life, my wife, and Tim. You're seeing some pictures up here of my 6 kids, okay? 6 kids. Now you're probably on to the pictures where there's even more than 6 kids, all right? Those pictures are what we call Fun Friday. See, it's not enough insanity for my wife and I to have 6 kids. Oh, by the way, too, our kids each year get 1 year sequence off. What do I mean by that? Later this fall, their ages will be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, what's that last one, honey? Oh yeah, 15. Now, if you think that's not bad enough, advance it forward about 4 years, okay? And I'm going to have a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old living in the same house at the same time. Now that's insanity, all right? But we love our kids, and we love our kids as friends, so we have something called Fun Friday. On Fridays, once a month, we let each of our kids invite a friend over. So then it's not 6, it's 12, okay? And that's Fun Friday. And it's crazy, all right? But I love it. And I know my wife loves it as well. There is no cooler job that I've ever had in the world and ever will have than being a dad. It's what I love most. But I learned so much about character, about integrity. Those are the things I try to pass on to my kids. And the point that I'm making here is, where did it all start? Who am I? I got to go back and tell you a little bit about my time in FFA. All right? I've actually told bits and pieces of my story before. I've never told my actual FFA testimony. Because, see, my time in FFA was a little untraditional in how I got into FFA. Yeah, I grew up on a small farm, but I didn't know about FFA. I didn't know about ag class. So how I ended up in the FFA actually starts as an 8th grader. I'm an 8th grader, and I'm walking through the hallways, and I'm a boy, and what do boys think about when they're in the 8th grade? Girls! That's exactly right. So I show up the 8th grade year, and I'm walking through the hallways, and I'm noticing that there are some boys and girls that are couples. They're going together, or whatever we called it at that point in time. And I thought to myself, you know, I was watching them, and they would hold their hands going to class. And then I would see some of them actually give the girl a smooch right there at the locker. And I thought to myself, now that looks like fun. I got to get me one of those. So, a few months go by, and I think I passed out a note to this girl, and it said, will you go with me, check yes or no? And by second period, she had checked yes. So I had me one of those, okay? I had me a girlfriend. And I was so excited. By the third period, I held her hand all the way to class. Now, what am I thinking about now? I'm thinking about one of those smoochies, okay? And here we are. It's a Friday. And I realize I'm a good boy, so I feel like I better be patient. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and somewhere around 5th period, I decided that had been long enough. And so I decided I was going to walk her to her locker and give her a big old smoochie. And so I did. I walked her to the locker, and she turned around, and I gave her a big old smooch. And man, I thought I was going to turn around and just see everybody looking at me about how cool I am with this girlfriend. And just about the time I was turning around, this huge paw of a hand comes out of nowhere and grabs me by the back of the shirt and picks me up off the floor and starts carrying me down the hallway. All you see is this little 8th grader's feet just dangling down there. And I'm dangling down the hallway, and finally this big man sets me down and says, "Young man, just exactly what do you think Larry would think if he saw you do that back there?" Well, let me let you in on something. Larry was my father. I don't know who this man was, but he clearly knows who my father is, and my father would be none too pleased with my actions back there. So I looked up at him and I was frozen, and I said, "Larry would not be happy." And he said, "Son, do you know what character is? Because I know Larry, and Larry is a man of character. And I'm sure somewhere along the line he has taught you about honor and about dignity and about respect." And then he got down, and I'll never forget it, and he looked in my eyes at my level, and he said, "Son, let me tell you something. Your reputation in this school will largely be defined by your actions in these hallways. Don't screw that up." And then he informed me that if he ever saw me doing that again, he'd be calling Larry with me. I want to tell you something. I never made that mistake again. Ever made that mistake again. Now, here's where it gets really fun. It was a Friday. I already told you that. On the following Monday, we made our rotations of our elective classes. So in the 8th grade, you got to take 4 different electives so you could be exposed to different disciplines so that your freshman year, you can make a good choice as to what you wanted to do. My elective that I got to go into that following Monday was agriculture class. No big deal. I walk into the class. Imagine my surprise when I walked into that class to see that big man with the big paw that carried me down the hallway standing up in front of that class as the agriculture teacher. Now, I saw him. I didn't think he saw me. I go to sneak around in the back of the class and sit down, and he says, "Well, well, well, if it isn't Romeo." And then proceeded to call out the roll of the class and called out Romeo. And for the next 9 weeks, I got to be referred to as Romeo. But let me tell you something, I didn't care. Because what this man taught was something I had never experienced before. Yes, he taught agriculture. He spent half his time teaching agriculture. But he taught something else that I absolutely couldn't get enough of. And it was called leadership, and it was called character. And man, I had never had anybody position something so amazing to me that I had never experienced before, and I gobbled it up. So clearly, when I was done with that elective, I couldn't sign up for agriculture class fast enough for my freshman year. And I signed up for agriculture class, and I was there, and then I got exposed to something called the FFA, because I didn't know what the FFA was in the 8th grade. So I get exposed to something called the FFA in my 9th grade year, and it happened by me going to a camp. In Indiana, we have a camp just like you guys have here. Only your guys' is a little bit bigger. I tell you what, I am very impressed with your guys' camp. I got the opportunity, Mr. Yates walked me around this camp today and my wife, I was blown away. You guys have a fantastic facility here. But it reminds me of going back to my freshman year where I'm at camp for the first time, and I'd never done an opening ceremonies. I'd never even had an FFA manual. But I got elected president of our group, and I had to do the opening ceremonies, and I had to do everything out of the manual. I loved it. We did recreation. We did all kinds of cool stuff. Those of you that have been to camp, you know what I'm talking about. But something happened at that camp. At the end of the camp, there was 250 campers there. Everybody in the camp was asked to write down one name. One name of one kid that they felt was a top leader. Somebody that really impacted them, made a difference in their life. Everybody wrote down one name. And then at the end of camp, they tallied up the names, and they got the 5 top vote getters, and they gave out a top leader award. I have never been so blown away in my life, okay? More so than even when I was elected national president, than when they called my name out as a top leader in that camp. Because they identified something that I didn't even know I had, which was leadership. And it was identified by my peers. Now I want to tell you something. I brought today the plaque that I got as a top leader at that first camp. And the reason I brought it is because in my office, there is one plaque that is predominantly displayed, and it is this plaque. You would say to yourself, why isn't your national president plaque, your state president plaque? Because let me tell you something, it all started right here. When my peers said, you've got leadership, you've got something inside of you that's called leadership. And at that point, I was hooked. I was on at that point. I wanted to just find out, what could I do in this organization? You know, they talked about Glenn Stiff, who gave the largest individual contribution that anybody's ever given, because he went to the Washington Leadership Conference as an FFA member, and it changed his life forever, and he dedicates so much of his success to that experience. He wants every kid to go to Washington Leadership Conference. Every FFA member that should ever want to experience it, to be able to go. And I feel the same way. I went to that Washington Leadership Conference. It changed my life forever. Because I went there, I thought this FFA in leadership was just in Putnam County, or at least the state of Indiana. And I get there and there are kids from all over the country that are all about FFA, all about leadership. There were kids there from Arkansas. There were kids there from Texas, from California, from all over. In fact, one of my friends there, I made a friend there, he was my roommate. He was from the state of Iowa, and his name was Steve Hicks. Now, those of you that have ever been in Washington, D.C., they have something there called the mall. You know what the mall is in Washington, D.C.? It's not a shopping mall, okay? It is where they go with all the museums that are lined around. It is this massive place. They gave us free time and dumped us off at the mall. So here I am with my new friend Steve Hicks from Iowa, and we're there together at the mall, and we're going along, and all of a sudden this man starts walking towards us. He is dressed in a three-piece suit. He is dressed like I've never seen anybody dressed. And he walks straight up to us. We kind of duck our head because we don't know what the guy's going to do. He walks straight up to us. He puts out his hand, and he says, "My name is Mr. Cobb. I'm president of one of the largest banks in New York City. What might your names be?" Now, I got to be honest with you, okay? I was in official dress, and I thought, this guy looks really smart, but I was questioning a little bit because my name was written right across my jacket, okay? But he asked me what my name was, and I mustered up all the confidence that I had that my father had taught me back in Indiana, and I reached up and said, "My name is Mark. Mark Tim from Indiana." And my buddy looked over, and he reached up, and he said, "My name is Steve." And at that point he froze, and he said, "Hicks from Iowa." And that guy looked at my friend and said, "Son," and he kind of chuckled, "Do you know what we do with Hicks in New York City?" Well, let me tell you something. Something woke up in my friend, and he looked up at that man, and he said, "Mister, I have no idea what you do with Hicks in New York City, but I know what my great-grandpappy did with Cobb's back in Iowa." That's courageous. That's confidence. All right? So those of you that don't know what the grandpappy did with Cobb's back in Iowa, that was what they used toilet paper back then, okay? All right? So FFA brought me around the world. I had the opportunity to go so many different places. After Washington Leadership Conference, I said, this is it. I'm going all out. I want to see how far I can go in this organization, and I did. I went back, I ran for chapter office, I got chapter vice president, then chapter president, then I got to be the state president, then the national president. In fact, you heard from Josh Bledsoe up here yesterday, and he talked about being in Washington, D.C. with the President of the United States. I got to be right there with him. I got to hand the President of the United States a plaque. At the National FFA Convention in 1991, I got to introduce President George Bush on stage at the National Convention, Barbara Bush on national television. All of this happened because of the gift that I was given called the FFA. Because of the gift that I was given, because of an ag teacher that cared enough to grab me by the back of the shirt and carry me down the hallway. Because of that gift, because of that character, because of that leadership that he taught me, I got the chance to do those things. So when I say you're gifted, I mean you're truly gifted. Now, I got to say something. I'm going to break form just a little bit here, because one of the things that this was not what I was planning to speak about, but I want to say something. I've been walking around this camp, and I've seen a lot of ag teachers. In fact, there was an ag teacher that walked us around the camp and showed us, and there's a bunch of ag teachers that were standing out front there when I walked in here this evening. I wouldn't be standing up here today if it wasn't for my ag teacher, Larry Bottomler. And I want to tell you something, you are so lucky to have the 210, 220 ag teachers in the state of Arkansas that care enough about you to bring you to this convention. So we're going to stop right here, and we are going to recognize those ag teachers that brought you here to this convention with a big round of applause. Just being here, just seeing you brings back so many memories of my ag teacher and all that he did for me in my life. And so if you get the opportunity tonight, say thank you to your ag teacher. Do that for me, okay? So when I say you're gifted, you've been given a gift to wear the blue and gold, all right? The best example I can give you of a gift, what I mean by gifted, is in an example I had in the FFA. As a national officer, I got the chance to travel a lot of places. In fact, I used to tell people as a national officer, I traveled to 45 states, 5 foreign countries, and Texas. Now, those of you that have been to Texas know that it's somewhere between a foreign country and a state. So, anyway, but one of the places I got to travel was Japan. And I went to Japan, and I got to go on an experience there where I actually stayed with a family there, all right? And I stayed with this family for 3 days in their home. It was a father, it was a mother, it was a grandmother that lived with them, and it was a little boy named Lee. Now, here's the fun part. When you slept in their house, the children slept downstairs in the family room. So each night, I slept with the children. So Lee would sleep right next to me, and Lee would cuddle in, and they'd lay these big blankets because they didn't have heat inside their house. So the parents would come down and they would lay these big blankets over the top of us and keep us warm. And Lee would come downstairs with this little blue stuffed whale. And he would carry it under his arm, and he would lay down next to me and look at me and fall asleep with this little blue whale in his arm every night. Even though I couldn't speak Japanese and they couldn't speak English, somehow Lee and I could communicate, and we communicated well. And so by the end of the trip, we're sitting around as a family, and I had been told in advance I needed to bring some gifts. I should bring some gifts for him. So I went down in my dad's closet, and I found a bunch of stuff he'd been given free from salesmen because he was in farming and seed corn sales. And I grabbed a bunch of hats and pins and papers and buttons, and that's what I took over there as gifts because I wanted to show appreciation to this family. So when it came time to give gifts, I went first, and I gave him a hat, and I gave him some buttons, and I gave him some pins. And they were really appreciative, or it seemed like really appreciative. And I thought, boy, what a nice thing I did giving that gift. And then, one by one, they left the room. And the first person to leave the room was the father. And he left the room. And he came back with something. And I actually brought it. I had it in a box in my attic, and I found it. This is what he brought me. Now, at the time, I didn't really even know what it was, and I thought it was kind of a strange gift. Until he explained that it belonged to his best friend who died when he was 16. And it was a gift that he had given to him when he turned 16. And he handed that to me, to give to me, to keep forever. And I thought, who gives away a gift from their best friend that they're never going to see again? And then the mother comes back, and she is carrying a kimono. And she wants me to give this kimono to my mother. And then explains to me that it is the kimono that she wore after she had been married. And she gives it to me. And I gave it to my mother. And then the grandmother comes back. And she gives me this right here. This is a stone ball, stone circle. And she explains to me that her husband, who had passed away during the war, had brought back a piece of stone and then had it shaped into this right here and gave it to her. And she gave that to me. And I'm blown away. I'm sitting there completely speechless, completely blown away. And then something happens that I will never forget. I look around and Lee is not in the room. And next thing you know, he comes walking down the stairs. And by the time he turns the corner, I start to realize what's just about to happen. Because Lee is carrying this blue whale. As precious as those gifts are that were given to me, there was nothing in the world more precious than this whale to that little boy. And by the time he reached me, tears were flowing down his face. And I started to say no, but I realized I couldn't. And he handed this whale to me and put it in my hands. And I realized that somebody had just given me the one thing in life that they valued more than anything in life. So I want to tell you something. If Lee were here today, I wouldn't tell him thanks for the whale. I would tell him thanks for the gift of giving. Because that changed my life forever. That moment right there changed my life forever. I never looked at the gift of giving the same again. So when I tell you that you're gifted, when I tell you that you've been given a gift to wear the blue and gold jacket, I'm telling you that you have been given a gift that can pay dividends for the rest of your life, that can make the difference in your friendships, in your family, in your future. In fact, let me just break it down for you, okay? Gift. What kind of gift are we talking about? I already said your gift. It's the gift of FFA. You have been given a gift in the FFA, all right? There's another gift you've been given. When I look back at my time in the FFA, it was friendships. Man, I had so many friends. I developed friends all across the country, all across the state I was in. In fact, there's almost not a state I can go in that I can't identify somebody that I know through FFA. You are given a lot of friendships in this organization. How many here have met somebody that you consider a friend that you didn't know before you got here? Okay? Every convention I went to, every camp I went to, I met friends. These friends can be friends for the rest of your life. So you've been given the gift of FFA, you've been given the gift of friendship. Okay? You have been given the gift of friendship. Now let me tell you something about friendship. Choose wisely your friends. A speaker that I knew one time said that you are the average of your 3 closest friends. And what he was talking about was grades. If you look at your closest friends and you average the grades, you're probably right in there. Later in life, you'll be the average of what they make in terms of salary. Okay? Now, I will tell you this, you'll probably be the average of how much trouble you get into if you look at those group of friends as well. Okay? So, choose your friends wisely. Who your friends are, all right? Be a friend, all right? And become a friend. Give back in terms of friendship. You have the opportunity to do that here in the FFA. So, gift of FFA, gift of friendship, and then you have the gift of your future. Absolutely unlimited future. There is no limit to where you can go and what you can do in this organization. I've already lived it as an example. You've seen it up here by other people and the stories that they've been told. All right? But here is where it really matters. It's all about your future. Your future is limitless. In fact, I had the opportunity to go to Alaska one time. Has anybody ever been to Alaska? Okay, a few hands going up. There is a set of islands way up in the western part of Alaska. It's called the Diomede Islands. Now what makes these islands so cool? They're all spread out. But what makes it really neat is that some of the islands are located on the side that is owned by Russia. And some of them are located on the Alaskan side, owned by the United States of America. Now, it gets even better. Right down the middle of those islands is the international date line. So, you can stand on one island and look across. And not only can you see a different way of life, okay? You can see a different way of life, a different culture, things that they value differently than us. But on a clear day, you can look across and you can see the future because you can see tomorrow. FFA members, you have the opportunity to see tomorrow. If you could look into the future, what would you see? What would you see? What would your future look like? You have been given the gift of your future. So much of your future is in front of you, not behind you. You've been given a great gift. But here's the catch. We tend to be the limitation of our future. We limit our own ability. In fact, does anybody out there know the name Roger Bannister? Who was Roger Bannister? Can anybody shout it out? Roger Bannister was the first man to run a 4-minute mile. Now, they started keeping track of who could run the fastest in 1870. So, 1870, 1880, 1890, Roger Bannister doesn't run the 4-minute mile until 1954. Now, why did that happen? Experts, medical people had said, it's impossible to run under a 4-minute mile. Do you know why they said? Because your heart would explode. The physical body wasn't able to run a sub-4-minute mile because your heart would simply explode. But then Roger Bannister did it in 1954. Now, here's where it gets fun again. 49 days after Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile, somebody else ran it. In fact, in 1954, 7 people ran under a 4-minute mile. Now, it took 84 years from the time they started keeping record for the first person to do it, and then 7 people do it in the same year? How can that be possible? What was the limiting factor? Was it the heart, or was it the head? It was the head. The heart can handle it, but nobody believed it was possible. Once they knew it was possible, then they were able to do it. They believed they could do it, and then they were able to do it. All right? So this is the point that I want to say. I'm going to divide this line again, and we're going to do something here. Okay? Because I don't have much time with you left. I want to make this time count. So this is the point we're going to divide it, and this side of the room is going to shout, I believe, and this side is going to shout, in me. It's as simple as that. Let's hear it. Here we go.
I believe in me. I believe in me. I believe in me.
All right, listen, FFA members, you had better believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself because you're the only person that can really limit the potential that you have. All right, this is the point in my speech where I have got to absolutely get real with you. Okay, and what I mean by getting real with you is that I want you to really listen to this next thing because I've got 6 kids at home and I care about their future and I care about your future. But let me tell you something. If you read the news, if you watch the news, and you listen to what they say about your future, if you listen to what society says about you, about your generation, it can be very depressing. In fact, my 6 kids, wanted to do something to help me with this speech. So what they did is they produced a video, and I'm going to share that video with you here right now. Jerry, if you can help me. This is a video of what society says about your generation. Watch with me.
I am part of a lost generation, and I refuse to believe that I can change the world. I realize this may be a shock, but happiness comes from within is a lie, and money won't make me happy.
So in 30 years, I will tell my children, they are not the most important thing in my life. My employer will know that I have my priorities straight because work is more important than family.
I tell you this, once upon a time, families stayed together, but this will not be true in my era. This is a quick fix society.
Experts tell me 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce. I do not concede that I will live in a country of my own making. In the future, environmental destruction will be the norm. No longer can it be said that my peers and I care about this earth. It will be evident that my generation is apathetic and lazy. It is foolish to presume that there is hope. And all of this will come true unless...
FFA members, that's your future. If you choose to accept it, that is what your future will look like. But the key word there is, if you choose to accept it, you do have a choice. Jerry?
And all of this will come true unless we choose to reverse it. There is hope. It is foolish to presume that my generation is apathetic and lazy. It will be evident that my peers and I care about the earth. No longer can it be said that environmental destruction will be the norm. In the future, I will live in a country of my own making. I do not concede that 30 years from now, I will be celebrating the 10th anniversary of my divorce.
Experts tell me this is a quick fix society, but this will not be true in my era. Families stayed together once upon a time.
I tell you this, family is more important than work. I have my priorities straight because my employer will know that they are not the most important thing in my life.
So in 30 years, I will tell my children, money will make me happy is a lie, and happiness comes from within. I realize this may be a shock, but I can change the world.
And I refuse to believe that I am part of a lost generation.
FFA members, you can change the world. I hope that you refuse to believe that you are part of a lost generation. You are the future generation. You're my future, you're your future, you're everybody's future. And that's why I believe the future is in good hands with these blue and gold jackets. So as I start to wind down my time with you here this evening, I did a lot of reflecting on my time in the FFA. This is the first time I've ever told my FFA story. And one of the things I did is I went back and I actually read my retiring address. And there was a story that I used in my retiring address, and I want to share that with you here this evening. See, it was a story of a cowboy and an Indian. And the cowboy went up to the stream, and he stopped at the stream to give his horse a little drink of water. And out from nowhere, an Indian came out and said, "Pick up some pebbles in the stream, for tomorrow they will make you both happy and sad." So the cowboy thought that was a pretty strange request, but he thought, I don't want to insult the guy. So he reached down, he picks up a few pebbles, throws them in his pocket, and he rides on. He goes to the nearest town, ties up his horse, gets a room in the hotel, and beds down for the night. When he wakes up the next morning, and he throws his clothes on, he feels something in his pocket. And he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out what he thought were stones. But now they had been turned into rubies and diamonds and emeralds. And he was in amazement, but he only had a few of them. So he threw them back in his pocket, he jumped back on the horse, he rode back to the stream, he filled up his pockets with stones, he filled up his boots with stones, he filled up his bags with stones, he grabbed every stone he could carry, went back to that same town, tied up his horse in the same spot, bought the same room for that night, and went to sleep. And when he woke up the next morning, you can imagine what he found. He found boots and bags filled with stones. He was mad. He was so mad, he jumped back on his horse, he rode back to the stream, and he found that Indian. And he looked at him, he said, "You tricked me." And the Indian looked at him and said, "Oh, no. For you see, you are happy that you had the opportunity, but you are sad that you didn't take better advantage of it." Well, if there's one thing I can leave you with here this evening, it's to know that the gifts that I'm talking about, that are those stones. Those are those stones. And you need to be picking up every single one of them you can. There's all kinds of them to get at this convention, at leadership contests, in your chapter, in all activities that you do. You need to be filling your pockets as full as you can with those stones. Because if there's one thing I can tell you from my own personal experience, is that when you hang up that blue and gold jacket and you go on into the rest of the world and whatever it is you're supposed to do in life, those stones that you picked up while you were wearing the blue and gold jacket will turn into diamonds and emeralds and rubies in your life. And you will be so thankful that you picked every one of them up. Because what I want from you is I don't want you to look back and say, "I'm happy I picked a few up, but I'm sad that I didn't take better advantage of it." Take advantage of every single opportunity you have in this organization. Don't miss a single stone. Don't miss a single opportunity to put it in your pocket. One of my favorite speakers is Winston Churchill. And he said, there comes a time in every man's life, a magnificent moment, where he's asked to do something truly extraordinary. What a shame if that moment finds that man unprepared or unqualified for what could have been his finest hour. FFA members, the day is today, the time is now. I am that man. This is that moment. Take advantage of the opportunities that you've been given in this organization, and you can change the world. Thank you for your